Zach Meadows. How you doing, man?
Pretty good.
Well,
how are you?
Doing good, man.
Good.
So, how are you doing?
Good. Yeah, everything's good. Like, work's good. Life's pretty good for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, so, typically you always have, like, a weird story of the day. Like as far as, like, work goes.
Yeah, so,
Did something happen today?
Yeah.
I can see it in your eyes.
so
I can see it
so like
in your
the
eyes.
last 2 days have been like kind of funny at work. I work reception at a mental health office. We had a guy come in yesterday. He was like real mad. He was like screaming and yelling about needing to sign up for like anger management classes or something. And he was like, I don't need them. I'm like, sir, you're screaming about needing not needing the classes. I think you need them. And so he got like real mad.
Well, what do you do? Like tantrum, or do you just walk away?
No, he just like kind of kept to himself and was like mumbling and like stomping his feet.
Oh, that's weak, Zach.
Yeah.
Some of the ones you shared with me. I like the guy that like threw your name tag at you, or the thing on your desk.
Oh yeah. Well, that ended with us getting a bomb threat.
Yeah. By the same person or just random?
No, by the same person. Well,
gotcha.
the two people, like, it's not the same person I was just talking about, but yeah, that was something.
So some of the reoccurring individuals, like that's special.
We had a guy, one of our like reoccurring patients, come in today, and he was like, "Hey, you guys needed my new address. Here it is. I wrote it down on this magazine for you." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I took it, and it was just a Walmart toy catalog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what to do with that, right?
Yeah. Enter Walmart as his address.
So typically moments like that is where like the story will stop when you share it, but like what happens after that? So like they give you something that you will not be able to use. Do they just like walk out the door?
Yeah.
It's like, this is my social security. Bye.
Yeah.
And they don't tell you like who or what.
Nope. They just leave and leave it for me to decipher.
What do you do with that?
I just try and figure out who it needs to go to. But in that case, I just was like, well, I don't need this, so I'll just throw it in the trash.
What's like the weirdest moment you've had like so far with all the shenanigans? I know there's a couple.
Yeah. We've had quite a few people use the bathroom on our floors. Yeah, so there's that.
Like one or two.
Normally it's like number two. I go
like,
be on the floor.
Like someone comes in and they're like right there in the foyer?
Normally it's closer to the bathroom.
So it's like an accident. It's not like they're coming in.
Not really, because they're never close to the toilet.
Well, okay.
Like,
so
it's
like,
always at like the sink.
It's not like sabotage or anything. They're not coming in and they're like, ah, and then like they leave.
No,
like they're coming in, they're like, oh,
no,
I'm trying to get to the bathroom.
No, not even that.
All right,
they're not even like trying to get there.
Okay, so help me understand, Zach.
So what happens is like they'll be like waiting to go back for their appointment or whatever, and then like they'll go to the bathroom, use the bathroom, and then just like come out, and then like 15 minutes later, someone else will go in there, and I'm like, hey man, someone pooed on the floor, and I'm like. And I know who did it because there's only one person that's been in there for like the past hour.
Right.
You know, and it's like, bro, why did you do that?
Are the bathrooms where you work like close to the reception desk?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. So like, is it like pretty soundproof, or like are you hearing?
Yeah, it's pretty soundproof.
Hearing some of the war zone action?
No, I don't hear any of it, but because of like, it's my job to like monitor that stuff. I'm pretty vigilant on how long people have been in there.
That's a pretty good word. You're vigilant.
I'm like the Batman of the bathroom.
I was gonna say I associate vigilant with Batman. So. Yeah, man. So you do a lot in the church, and like I'm sure there's like a fair amount of people that have seen you around, but like they just don't know what you do. And so like if someone was like a newcomer coming to church and that wasn't crapping on the ground at where you work, what like how would you explain like what you do at the jar, volunteer wise, and everything else that you do?
Well, I gotta be honest, like most of the stuff I do, I wouldn't do unless like my wife hadn't like volunteered us to do.
Oh, okay.
Like coaching.
Like, good to know you just love what you do, Zach.
Yeah. Well, like I think it was my wife that like volunteered us to like start coaching for hospitality. Yeah. And then from there, I started doing let's backtrack some. So I originally started volunteering for the jar through ServFest, and through that I got to know like Mikey and Emily and Dawn and Chris like all a little bit better. And then slowly, like as time has progressed, I've just like taken up more things. Like I started off doing parking, and then like COVID happened. And then when we started to come back from COVID, they were like, hey, we need people to coach hospitality teams. So me and my wife, we volunteered to do that. And then from there, they were like, oh, hey, do you want to do like prayer team also? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so I started doing that. And then they're like, hey, do you want to lead a small group? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then they're like, hey, or you approached me about like doing CR, and I was like, yeah, hey, I'll do that. And so like slowly, I just like kept adding things to my plate. Mm-hmm. And here recently, my wife has been like, just stop it, stop.
She's like, all right, enough is enough.
Yeah, she was.
I guess to explain like the current, we really kind of have to take a couple steps back though. So you did kind of make reference to that. Like we have known each other a couple years now.
Yeah, I think going on like 3 years.
But basically, before all of that, like volunteering and all the different aspects of the jar that you're a part of. I mean, geez, man, how like we met for like a year and a half of just doing coffee like every week. Yeah. Like you had really no association with the jar outside of just coming on Sundays and just kind of being a part of what was going on. And what we were just, it was like weekly, right?
Yeah, every Friday.
Yeah. Yep. I remember like my go-to was always like a London Fog.
Yeah.
Tea or
chai
something.
Tea or something.
Wasn't a chai tea. It was a London Fog tea.
I don't drink tea, so.
Oh, okay. What do you drink, coffee?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I drink coffee too. On those days, I drank tea.
I've never seen you drink it.
I'm drinking coffee right now.
I can't see what's in the cup.
Right there.
Look
at that. What do you think that?
Like stick my finger in there. Oh yeah, that's.
You want to drink some?
No, I'm good.
Right.
It's Dunkin' Donuts blend. Swirl it with my finger.
But yeah, so what was the routine? Like we basically met for like every Friday, and it was basically we just did life together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we did life together, and it would typically end in like why don't you? Well, before I talk about how it ended, like. Why don't you talk about like where you were at that time before?
Oh man.
Well, I mean, it
was bad.
Don't say it like that. Don't say it like that. But it's definitely interesting because not everybody is gonna know.
Yeah. So when me and you like first started like getting together on Fridays, I had just left one job. So I worked at the Indianapolis Men's Clinic for a year. I had left that job. And as I was leaving that job, me and my wife, Ashley, we had just started coming to the jar. So we had been going to the jar for probably about 4 weeks, maybe. And I don't remember why, but she didn't go to First Steps with Chris when I did. Like, we didn't go at the same time. So I went, and then, like, nothing, like, I was like, oh, that's, cool. Like, this is who the pastor is or whatever. And then I had changed jobs to work at the post office. And so when I was working at the post office, it was 6 days a week, like a minimum of 10-hour shifts. And so I was working from 9:30 at night until 8 in the morning.
And then your wife was working.
Yeah, and then she was working, because at the time she worked at Taco Bell. So she was working 5 days a week from 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. So when she left for work, I was not even home yet. And she'd be at work, and I would be asleep the whole time. And then she'd get home, and I'd still be asleep. And then it'd get to, like, 5 o'clock. I'd get up, eat dinner, hang out for, like, an hour or whatever. And then I'd leave for work 10 hours, and do it all again the next day. And it was bad. That was, like, really the only factory job I'd ever worked. So I worked at, like, the processing plant. And talk about, like, a soulless building. It's all, like, real. I mean, like, it wasn't dark and dingy or anything, but it was, like, really bright. But there were no windows. It was, like, real hot all the time. And it was just, like, a miserable environment. Like, management kind of, sucked, like, real bad. And so, yeah, it put me in, like, a really bad place with, like, depression and stuff like that. But when I had, like, first started working there, though, is when me and you started hanging out. And so that, like, kind of helped it. And we were meeting every Friday at, like, 9 o'clock, like, right as soon as I got off work. So, like, half the time, like, I don't know how I did it, like, to be honest. I
don't know, because sometimes we went for a couple hours. It just depended on how intense we were, like, I don't know, we would always talk about, like, some sort of weird conspiracy theory going on in the world. Yeah. And that would usually push us a couple hours sometimes. So, yeah, I don't know how you were conscious through most of that. But
I don't know. Sheer willpower, I guess. Yeah. Who knows?
But was that, like, a huge strain, like, between you and your wife at the time? Like, working opposite shifts and not being happy with your job?
It definitely, like, it solved, like, our financial problems because, I was working, 30 hours of overtime, like, every week or whatever, and I was making, like, almost, $17 an hour, and then I would make that overtime on top of that, and so we had money, like, we didn't have any issues, like, financially, but we didn't see each other. We hardly ever, like, had dinner, like, actual dinner together. We didn't sleep, like, together on the same, like, sleep schedule for 6 days out of the week. Yeah.
So what were, like, the first steps, like, out of that? Like, when you started to notice a huge change in, like, that dynamic?
I think the thing that really, like, did it was, like, first off, the conversations that we were having, because, like, I feel like we struggle a lot with the same things, like depression and anxiety, like, wise, and for a long time I was in denial about it, and so it was kind of like, oh, maybe I, do have, depression issues, and maybe it is caused by, like, my work and, not being around my family, because, like, it wasn't just my wife that I was missing out on that relationship with. It was like parties that, like, my parents were having, because, they'd invite us all over for, like, the 4th of July, and I'd be like, yeah, we'll be there, but I can only be there for an hour because I have to go home and sleep so I can be at work tonight,
Yeah.
And it just, like, wasn't worth it.
Yeah. It's like it changes every aspect about your life, or it affects every aspect of your life, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, like, that is interesting that you say that. Like, for me, definitely, like, I don't know, like, it's cliche sometimes to say, like, well, the fellowship is important, but it is.
Yeah.
Like, community. I mean, fellowship's just, like, another word for, like, community, really. And so, like, for me, being able to have it's not like every time we were getting together for, like, coffee that first year and a half of us knowing each other. It's not like I was skipping down the sidewalk, singing along, like, oh, life is great.
No, but and it was also, like, really awkward between us, like, those first few times I remember, because I think, like, we had our first meeting, like, together, and I kind of just like spilled my whole life story onto you, and I had actually thought that I like scared you away.
Oh, not even close.
And I was like, because Ashley was like, "Oh, how'd it go?" And I was like, I gave him my whole life story.
Oh no, that's light on the scale.
And she's like,
brother.
"Oh God, Zach."
that was light. That was light, brother, man. No, actually, the first time I think I've told you this story, but the first time like we went and got like coffee together, I didn't know what you looked like.
Oh yeah.
So I only knew like your name.
Yeah.
So like first steps with Chris happened, and then like someone asked me to like follow up with you, and they're like, hey, reach out to Zach. So like I had your number, and like I text you. I was like, hey, do you want to go? So we went to the caffeinery downtown here in Muncie, and like it's like that morning, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of feel weird about this because I'm gonna go into this place.
Yeah.
I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you look like. I mean, I assume you know what I look like or who I am, but I have no idea who you are. And so like I Facebook you. Like this is like maybe 20 minutes before I'm supposed
and there's
to
like 3 of us in Muncie.
Yeah, so I can't remember what I did, if I did Zach or Zachary Meadows. But whatever I did, 3 of you came up, and I think one of you didn't have a picture, and then it was just you and another guy. And so I was like trying to memorize the faces, and I was like, my luck, it's going to be the guy without a photo.
Yeah.
And so luckily, I just like guessed. I just kind of pointed across the room, like, hey, you, Zach. And it was, which sounds way more awkward and weird, but like, it wasn't. It wasn't weird at all. And I mean, yeah, I think, I mean, not to be like too deep, but like I feel like that's kind of a lie of the enemy. Like the idea, like, oh, to be able to spill your guts, or not even spill your guts, but just to be able to share your story and like share your heart. Really is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Being able to share your heart, like, nah, man, like we should be able to do that. We should be able to support each other as people. And honestly, I think that we really want to. We just are either nervous, we're scared, we're afraid to be that genuine, that real with people, because like what you just said, we're afraid, like maybe we're afraid of like scaring people off, or like what they might think of us if like they know. Well, that was a weird puberty moment. I was like, oh. But like if they know certain things about us. But nah, I feel like that is all a lie of the enemy. So those seeds of destruction don't even warrant the water. You know what I mean? So Sam.
Yeah, and I definitely think like everything is awkward, from the get-go.
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, like you start a new job, it's awkward. Like new friendships are awkward, and I feel like there's like a stigma towards just like being awkward, because this whole like in our existence we're always told, hey, if it's awkward like meeting someone for the first time, it's especially like if it's a date or something, it's probably not gonna work. Like if you have an awkward first date, it's probably not like gonna work. Maybe that was just bad advice that I was being given.
Were you trying to date me, Zach? Is that
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
No.
Gotcha.
No, I was married. Still am married.
Well, then how does this apply at all, Zach? No, it really wasn't awkward, though. I think it's like, things can sometimes only be awkward if you just believe they're awkward. Like, half the time, and I'm kind of bad about this, I will like assume things are awkward, or I assume I'm being awkward like in a situation, but it's like, that's not even the case. It's like no one would have thought anything about it, but it's like you make things weird by like stating it sometimes. And so I'm really talented at doing that, just making a weird situation out of nothing. But yeah, so through that kind of fellowship and I don't know, camaraderie, I guess, through having a kind of an authentic relationship with you and I, like, do you feel like the fellowship at like the Jar was able to help you out of that period in your life?
Yeah, definitely, because it was kind of like, we had started hanging out, and I was in like this bad place or whatever, and then it was kind of like, oh, hey, maybe you should check out CR. And so then eventually, between peer pressure from you and my wife, I was like, you know what, I'll check out CR. And I did, and I met even more people,
right?
That attend the Jar, and it was like, wait a minute, like, other people actually deal with what I'm dealing with,
right?
And so then from there, it just kind of like took off because it was like, hold on, like now I have like this whole outlook on life. You know, there's things I can actually do to get myself out of this place with depression. And, you know, maybe I should actually follow like what God wants me to do.
So what do you, like at that moment in your life, did you kind of feel like that was like schooling or?
Yeah. So
because there were a lot of things happening at that time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
once you made the decision to like kind of go deeper into the church after we were kind of getting to know each other, like building our friendship up for like a year, and kind of, you know, continuing to come to church every Sunday. There was like a I'm all in moment.
Yeah.
And you kind of like went deeper in volunteering, and then like you started school as well. So can you like what was going on in your heart at that time?
Yeah, so how that came to be was my wife that December, so it would have been December of 2019. My wife was like, we're getting baptized and you're gonna like it. And I was like, okay.
Geez, Zach, are all these stories of just your wife making you do things?
Well, I mean, there's a lot I make my wife do to, like, you know, call Meyer because they forgot something on our grocery pickup.
Did it mean anything to you?
Yeah, it definitely did.
Why don't you lead with that?
So I was in like a weird spot with like depression and work and stuff like that, and it like I had this like reoccurring thought that I didn't want to be baptized because, you know, I had all these issues, and I was like, you know, baptism just isn't for me right now. I need to get these things figured out before I get baptized because, you know, like God won't want me if I have issues with, you know, like anxiety, depression, things like that. But that's not the case at all. And so, you know, I did the baptism class. I got baptized, and it sounds generic, but being baptized like took that weight away, and it was like, okay, maybe this is the path that I need to be on. Like maybe I have found like the church that I need to be with, and, you know, this is, you know, the person God wants me to be, you know, my wife, and, you know, these are the kinds of friends that God wants me to have. So, you know, I'm just gonna take a moment and I'm going to follow what he wants me to do, you know. And so throughout, like, January, February, and March, I, like, just really prayed about it. And I talked to you about, like, what I wanted to do, and I talked to my wife. And I had really thought about going into ministry. And one day I was in the car with my wife, and she just said out of nowhere, she, like, you know, I hadn't talked to her about it yet, about, like, going back to school. And she was just like, I think you would be a really good youth pastor, you know. And I was like, why are you saying that? Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, you know, you grew up kind of poor, so you get that aspect. You know, you have issues with, like, mental illness. So, you know, you understand that. You understand, you know, like, what it's like to be from a broken home. You know, and I feel like there's a lot of, like, children that you could, like, really help with that stuff. And I was like, okay. So then, like, I applied to go to school to be a youth pastor. And I went to Indiana Wesleyan for, like, a semester. And it just didn't work out because I was having to drive to Marion every day and work on top of doing, like, all my schoolwork and, you know, still taking care of, like, my, you know, family. And so, I mean, it was an overall, like, good experience. And I ended up, like, quitting my job at the post office at the time. And that was, like, a whole other, like, thing in itself because I was considered part-time. So I had, like, a week-long, like, vacation between, like, points of employment. And I just stopped going. Like, I just stopped going to work. And no one noticed. Like, it took them a month to notice that I hadn't came back from work yet. Or, like, back to work yet. And I was like, yeah, that just tells me everything I need to know about. Like, I've been gone for a month. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you went from the postal office to
Pizza Hut.
Yes.
To working for the office that I work for now.
Yes, and you were working for your dad at that time too, right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting, that dynamic. But you went from that to working mental health.
Yes.
So how has that change been since delivering pizzas into working with mental health?
It's really not that big.
In mental health.
It's really not that big of a difference.
I was wondering.
Yeah. It just, the pay's a lot better.
Yeah.
Working in mental health, but that was actually what's the word I'm looking for? Persuaded me to switch fields, because I'd done my interview for the job that I have now, and I thought it went terribly. Like, one of the supervisors that was on the interview call, because it was done over Zoom because COVID. She didn't realize that she was on mute the whole time, and so she just thought I was ignoring her. And then, my current supervisor, his head just, kept disappearing behind the green screen. And then since I was sitting in my kitchen, my dog, she knew that I was talking to someone, and she was crying the whole time because she couldn't see who I was talking to.
Oh, good deal.
And so I have a dog crying in the background. One of the guys' head keeps disappearing, and then the other one thinks I'm just ignoring her.
Oh, so it sounds terrible, basically. Just awful. But you got the job, so what does it matter?
Yeah, and so what really persuaded me, though, was when they called me with the job offer, I had just opened my paycheck from Pizza Hut, and I was looking at it, and I was real sad about it.
Yeah. Please give me this job. I need money.
Well, and I don't want to say I didn't want the job, because it was a step up from what I was doing at Pizza Hut, but I put in for another job that I really, really wanted. And my supervisor, he called me with the job offer, and he was like, "Hey, this is starting pay." And I had my phone in one hand, my paycheck in the other. I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it."
He called you at the right time.
Yeah.
So for those, something that we like to do is eat. We love food.
I love to.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
So if I was to ask Zach, what are your top 3 Muncie go-tos as far as food goes?
Oh,
top
man.
3.
Top 3.
Not top 5, top 3.
Savages.
Yeah. Number 1 or just 3, 2? You have to rank them.
Not in any particular order,
No,
but
you
top
have
3.
to. 1, 2, 3, man. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, man. That's so...
One bite, everybody knows the rules.
Tough.
1, 2, 3.
First, Chavas, number 1.
Really?
Yes.
What?
Chavas, I think, is the best Mexican food in Muncie. By
no
far.
way.
By far.
What?
Blows Porta out of the water.
No.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Are you saying Chavez or Chavas? Because I've always heard it said Chavez. Is it Chavez?
I don't know. I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah. No, I don't
Chavez.
either. Anyway, the one over in the village.
Yeah, in the village. Yep.
Number 1. Okay. All right. Keep going. I can't believe
two would be Savages.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 would be, where have I been? There's a place I've been eating at a lot recently. But I don't know why I can't think of what it's called. I would say 3 just to mix it up a little bit. Probably Roots.
Roots?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, to mix it up.
Yep.
Interesting. All right, well, I guess it's good to know next time.
Yeah.
I thought it was Savages for sure. I would have bet money that.
Well, Savages is number 2.
Well, it's close, yeah. But I would have bet it's number 1 for how many times we've eaten it.
Yeah.
What's your go-to for Savages? That's probably a harder question than what's your
the
1,
patty
2, 3.
melt.
That was rather easy. What are you talking about? I think every time we've ever went to Savages,
I always try to get something different.
You have eaten something different, every time.
If they have it on their menu, because it's a special of the week item.
Yeah.
It would either be their pulled pork sandwich or their beer battered tenderloin.
So you have been in Muncie your whole life.
Yes.
And so it's not like you've come to Muncie. So what?
Well, so I was in the military for the beginning of my adulthood. So I left Muncie, and then like after I had experienced life somewhere else, I then came back.
But you were at Muncie. You were in Muncie to begin with, and then anyway. So like, I guess being desensitized to Muncie. Did you come out of that once you left, and then you had to like readjust once you come back?
Not exactly.
You know what I'm talking about. If you live here,
yeah.
Interesting individuals.
So when I joined the military, I joined while I was in high school, so I didn't leave until right after I graduated high school to like go to basic training. I hated living in Muncie, like as a teenager. And like looking back on it now, like it wasn't really that bad. There's just not much, or at the time when I was growing up, there wasn't a whole lot for poor South Side kids to do. And so a lot of my days consisted of like playing basketball with my brothers like at the park, or just walking like the neighborhoods of the south side of Muncie, or riding the MITS bus for hours on end. And that was it. But then like leaving and experiencing life somewhere else, it's like, oh, that's kind of the case everywhere. And then like coming back as an adult, like finding a job, and it's like, yeah, Muncie's not that bad.
Yeah, so I think that is an interesting concept. It's like when I went to high school, and I didn't live in Muncie. I wasn't really acclimated with Muncie. When I went to high school it was like a small little town. I don't know. I think my graduating class was like 75 or something, and that was like one of the bigger classes in a while at that high school. And I remember people always saying, like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to go experience the world. I can't wait to go to Muncie or to do this or,
That's a weird place to want to experience.
Right. Well, to this state or this state, whatever. But in my mind, I was like, the grass is still green on the other side. Yeah. It's not greener. You know what I mean? It's like that's always the perception. The grass is greener on the other side, but it's still green. You know what I mean? And so it's just interesting that it sounds like you kind of had that perspective as well. Like, oh, I'm ready to get out of here. You got out of there, and then okay, well, life is still the same. There's people over here in this portion or this area of the world, this state, that are saying the same exact thing because they think something else is going on over here. Yeah, but it's just more of the same. That's kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, and it definitely is weird because, so I was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and the town that it's in, which is Clarksville, Kentucky, it's a lot like Muncie in a lot of ways, but it's probably double the size of Muncie. And then it's like 45 minutes north of Nashville, Tennessee. So it'd be like comparable to like Muncie to Indianapolis. And it was just weird because it's like this city is almost like exactly, like Muncie, because, there's a road where, oh, the mall's over here and all your fast food chain restaurants are here. But then like the further you go towards downtown is where you start getting more of those small business, mom and pop type restaurants, and it's like, oh, they also have like the same sort of crime and just stuff like that. But then like moving back to Muncie, it was like almost eye-opening because it's like Muncie's its own thing. Like nothing, I mean, towns can like try and copy Muncie, and like you see that if you've ever watched Parks and Rec.
Yes.
But Muncie can't be copied. Like it can't. And like it has like its own like small town vibe going
waiting
on
you to like show like a Muncie tattoo.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Bam!
Yeah. Well, joke's on you because it's actually on my chest. So yeah, just rip my shirt,
Hulk out, and have a Muncie tattoo on your chest.
Little star that shows where I live, Muncie.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So, like, in your time in the military, do you feel like there was something or multiple things that you were able to really take away from, as far as, like, understanding, like, your own identity, your own growth as a person?
Yeah. I had a sergeant when I was going through my medic training who his name, and he could be listening to this. So if you are, this one's for you, Sergeant Sitgraves. Every time he would lead for like our formation, he'd always come up and he'd say, "Hey, Charlie Company, I just want you guys to be real cool tonight." As I'm like watching over you guys, because we're in training, so we still have to have babysitters, even though we're anywhere between the ages of 18 to 25. As I'm like watching the front desk, just remember, be real cool to each other, and anything that happens, it's because you're not being a very cool cat. So just try to be a real cool cat. If you're a cool cat, I'll be a cool cat, and we'll all just be real cool cats.
Was he like an inner hippie, but
No,
he was also
he reminded me of like a Beetle Bailey.
Okay.
Like the comic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you feel like that some of those experiences have helped you, like even today, like with some of your training for like mental health and like some of the aspects of like where you volunteer at church?
Yeah. Because I mean, like deep down, everyone just like wants to be like treated the same. And so if you're like, well, my goal in life is to be real cool, like not in like a like Fonz kind of way, but
Why not? The Fonz was
I mean,
cool.
yeah. If you want to,
You got a problem against Henry Winkler?
No, dude, I love him. I think he's hilarious.
What a weird name for the Fonz, though, right? He can't do anything. It's his name. He didn't choose it. Well, maybe he did, but like, I'm sure with a name like Henry Winkler, he didn't choose that. I would imagine, but like the Fonz, you know what I mean? It's like that was before our time anyway. But it's like the Fonz was this like sharp-looking dude, but his actual name was Henry Winkler. It just doesn't sound like it's Henry Winkler. Ha! Yeah, that's like Keith. I don't feel like anyone that's like anyone.
Sorry, Keith.
all the Keiths in the world. I just don't think that they would make good villains.
Yeah.
Like, it's Keith.
Or Stewart.
Yeah. Stewart. Stewart wouldn't be good. Stewart strikes again. Or Keith. Yeah, I don't know. Something about Keith because it's like
Keith and Stewart strike again.
It's just not good bank robber names. I'm sure there have been, but it's not a very menacing name. So I don't know where that was going. But
Henry, is it Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Yep.
When with Babyface Nelson.
Babyface Nelson.
He walks into the bank and she's like, "You're Babyface Nelson."
What is it, like George Babyface Nelson?
Yeah.
George Babyface Nelson.
He's like, "Don't ever call me that again, lady."
Babyface Nelson. That dude's crazy, man. He's like shooting cows and stuff. I've seen that movie way too many times.
Oh, dude, that's such a good movie.
What a just a wonderful movie of just like modern cinema.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. I was just trying to think, like they are like the dude that tries to sell them Bibles. He ends up taking them out to the middle of nowhere and just whacking the crap out of them with a branch, taking them.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's great.
Also, like funny thing about that movie is growing up when we would watch it, my mom was 100% convinced that was George Clooney singing.
Oh, I thought it was. I mean, as a kid, I was like, wow, George Clooney can hot dog, he can sing.
Why aren't the Soggy Bottom Boys a real thing?
Yeah, they're like, I mean, it looks like he's singing in that. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that's like the guitarist for like Alison Krauss that sings that song. Man of Constant Sorrow.
Yeah, that's a good song though.
It is. It's a heck of a song. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's like the band of Alison Krauss or something that are the guitarist or the backup singer, one of the two. But some form of connection with Alison Krauss, I think. But yeah. Or like Pappy O'Daniels.
Yeah.
Pappy O'Daniels. And that, oh man.
What was it? The dude's wife keeps saying, "Oh, he's bona fide."
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Oh man. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's been forever since I've seen that too. Or like they bust their buddy out of prison towards the end or whatnot.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
he only had like a year left or something like that.
And he gets captured again.
Well, what is it? It's like he tells him, it's like, I'm not gonna be up for parole now until like I'm like 64 or something like that. Yeah. Oh man, that's a good one. Well, anyway, man, I think it's probably about time to wrap it up. So the way we like to end it is typically we like to end with like verses that mean something to us, or words that mean something to us that God's kind of put on our hearts, on our lives. And maybe it's been for the year, the month, the week, maybe even the day. And so, Mr. Meadows, what is your verse or your word for the year, week, or the day?
I think my verse. Well, yeah. Well, I have a verse for the year, and it is Proverbs 11:24, and it is, one person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another person withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. So at the beginning of the year, like I was like, you know what, I want to give more back to the, like to my family, to my like community, to people in general that like just need it. And so it started off with me just like giving money out to like panhandlers, or like giving a little bit more like in the offering, stuff like that. And then like I stopped having money because I was giving it all out. I was like the Oprah of giving money to people that needed it or whatever. And so I just started like spending time with people, and I think that like time is also like what they're talking about there, because if you are willing to give your time to something, like you will get so much more out of it versus just being like a time Scrooge and holding it. So I mean, you can't hold on to time. I mean, you can do whatever you want in that certain amount of time, but eventually like you're not going to have anyone to share time with, And so I think that's really helped me. Like, it's really helped with like relationship with coworkers. Because there's like one coworker that when I first started at my job, we didn't really get along. But then like there's like a 15-minute period where she comes in for her shift and I'm like ending mine, where like I just like sit and talk to her, and I feel like we've become friends. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your verse and what it means to you, and also just your story, man. We appreciate you. We celebrate you. Thanks so much for being with us, brother.
Right on. Keep being a cool cat.
Yeah.